Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is the woman who knows how to set personal boundaries, Alex Standy. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And we hope that you are enjoying the kind of weather that I'm experiencing here in Connecticut and that Alex is experiencing in Massachusetts. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous spring weather going on today. And I got to find out the same thing, if the same thing is true with our guest today, Rahul. Rahul, I don't know where you're located in the world, but how's the weather where you are today?
It's amazing. I'm in Washington, D.C., Walt. And
okay. Yeah. So this is a banner East Coast weather day here in the U.S. and we're all going to celebrate it. Well, you got to celebrate stuff like this, right? I mean, when you get gorgeous weather and you're ignoring it, you're basically cutting yourself off at the neck. I mean, it's crazy to have to do anything else. So, yeah, celebrate this stuff. This is beautiful. This is wonderful.
We should celebrate every small win, every small moment, and bring happiness to our life, to our family, to our neighbors. That is what it is all about.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Okay, Alex, I got to ask you. I know I asked this last week, but is your hair even more purple today?
No, just good lighting.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's becoming vibrant every week. It's it's like purple.
Well, we're getting more and more sun coming in through the window. That's what it
is. See, that's the golden weather again, right? It's that beautiful weather coming through.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love that stuff. Well, all right. Well, our special guest today is joining us to talk about, just about everything having to do with leading a better life. The way he describes it is your mind talk matters. And I think we could easily agree with that sentiment around here because your mind talk, and not just your mind talk, but your self-talk in all of its forms matters greatly. But I'm going to be curious to find out exactly how that happens from his perspective. So Rahul Sharma, thank you, first of all, for joining us on the program today and give us a little bit of a background. How did you end up being the guy who says the mind talk matters?
Thank you, Walt, for having me on the show. And I'm a person who firmly believes on the positive mind talk and work on a notion from the quote that my father taught me in my early childhood, which is, where there is a will, there is a way. And that is the motto. That is, every time I'm having any struggles, any challenges, that just subconsciously comes into my mind that where there is a will, there is a way. I'm known for my willpower. I'm known for my determination. And in my early life, I have been able to transform some of not so healthy habits into positive habits, which made me believe more on this mind talk. And I believe that one small perspective change in our life can really change the outlook, can really make a better place for living for us as well as for people around us. And I have numerous stories which has helped me with my positive mind talk. And I thought if it has been helpful to me, I believe that a lot of people who are having same struggles like me in my early childhood or probably in my growing days, it can benefit anyone and everyone. The positive mind talk.
Not just then, but also now, because it's not like the journey is always easy for everybody at every moment throughout their lives. We're always dealing with this kind of stuff, right? We're always having to face up, okay, what I'm going to focus on next, because I know it does drive what happens in my life, but that doesn't make it easy necessarily.
Right.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, we all do things which is subconsciously in our mind. And I will give you an example. Just last week, we had a teacher appreciation week in my kid's school. And my daughter was after me that she needs to buy a drink from Starbucks for her teacher. Mm-hmm. So we went a little early that day, and the Starbucks next to the school, we went there. And when we were coming, my subconscious mind, because every time when I come from that route, I come directly to home. I never go to school. Because normally I pick up my own coffee after dropping them. So I missed the turn of their school and just I realized, oh my God, I missed the turn because subconsciously I was thinking that I need to go home. And so what happens is when we are doing things on a regular basis, just subconscious mind allow us to do things which we are very comfortable. So for us to do something little different, we need to remind ourselves. We need to be consciously aware of those things that we want to do, and that's where this mind talk comes into play. That we need to consciously talk to our mind what we want to do, and positively influence our own life.
Yeah, especially with those habitual subconscious tapes that keep going on that we programmed into our nervous system, regardless of whether we realize that we programmed them in. We still did. We programmed them in there. And so,
Right.
yeah, that becomes part of the life every single day. Now, you use a phrase that possibly contains a little bit of controversy. So I always like to bring that out. If there's any controversy, I like to bring that out. Because you described how you believe very much in willpower. And I've had many guests here on the program who have talked about how it isn't so much about willpower. It's about how you handle your mindset and addressing personal issues. But I get the kind of feeling you pretty much equate the two. Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're not. So sometimes for some people, the willpower means that they just want to go for it. They go all in. They don't think anything. They just go all in.
Mm-hmm.
For some of us, we consciously make that decision where we want to go in. So depending on the situation, there are situations where I have to subconsciously just go all in. For example, getting up early in the morning, there is always two thoughts in your mind that, hey, get that 5 minutes more sleep. But another mind of mine says that, man, just get it up, because that 5 minutes will never be 5 minutes. It will be 7, it will be 8, it will be 10. So there are some situations where you just have to get up and then make things happen. And there are certain times where you have to make your mind very strong, that which is something like having a dessert after a meal. It's very tempting to us to have a dessert, but if you tell your mind that you don't want to have dessert, and it is, I think the research shows, Walt, that if you avoid that dessert for 45 minutes, you will not be tempted to have that dessert anymore, because your mind remains conscious for that 45 minutes that, okay, you don't want to have it, and boom, you will not feel like having a dessert. Whereas if you go to any restaurant, the moment you are done with your dinner or a lunch or a meal, the helper, the steward will come to you and present you with the dessert menu. They don't wait for 45 minutes. They just come right away. And then you are tempted to have that. So it depends on situation to situation, which approach you need to take.
Doesn't it also depend upon how you feel about what it is you're going to be doing? The reason I think of that is, as you were describing getting up in the morning, I was remembering my ex-wife. She had a very strong tendency to want to sleep in a long time, early in the morning. The only exception was if there was something she was really looking forward to. And then she'd be the earliest person up and home. Everybody would be asleep still. She'd be up, packed, ready to go at that point, because she's so psyched about where it is she's going. So a lot of it has to do with how do you feel about what you're going to be doing that day, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That, and then how you have prepared yourself a night before also matters. Because this mind talk, some of people ask me that, when you say mind talk, do I need to talk 24/7, 365 positively to me? I said, no, that is not the case that I'm talking about. But what I practice is, when I sleep, before I go to bed, I talk to my subconscious mind about things that I want to accomplish next day. And when I get up in the morning, those are the same things I speak first thing in the morning. And that really boosts me. That gives me the courage. That gives me a lay of the land that, okay, this is how you want to plan your day. And I very much abide by Mr. Brian Tracy. He has in his book written, Eat That Frog. There is a book which talks about the time management. It talks about the productivity. And Eat That Frog is, you do the difficult things first thing in the morning. You don't wait for doing the difficult things throughout the day. If you just knock it off from your schedule first thing, then your entire day will be a great day.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah. Now, of course, there's another piece of this puzzle too about what you do getting up early, and that depends on, and Alex, I'm thinking about you in this case, because there are some people like Alex who don't necessarily sleep well. And so that's going to impact how you even look at the beginning of your day. I mean, Alex, in your case, I mean, I know the struggles you've had with that. When you think about this whole idea of whether to sleep in or, whether to get up and how excited you are, all that kind of stuff, from the perspective that you have of somebody who often has trouble getting sleep, how do you think about it?
Okay, so sleep is a construct. So here's the thing. As long as you're getting enough sleep for yourself, it's fine. I am a morning person, and then I'm not. So if I want to sleep in, because I don't sleep well, I'll get to bed like 2:00. So I'm going to sleep till 10. That may be too late for other people, but that's what I need. And I still get the things accomplished, but I still get them accomplished early in my day. And then I have the rest of the day off. But it's all about how you approach it. So it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay. So basically, like, it's all on how you approach it. So if you like to wake up early, then wake up early. If you don't, sleep in, but don't go by anybody else's time construct. Like, somebody else could wake up at 8:00 in the morning, and that's not your time. Do what your time works for you. That's how I deal with it.
And I would add here is, I firmly agree that what is working for you might not work for others. What is working for me might not work for others. So just because you read something on a blog today that, okay, this is the recipe for losing some fat, and you try it, it may not work for you because your body is built differently. So you really need to know yourself, know your body before you act on it. Mm-hmm. That is very important.
So what we're really getting to here is the root of mindset, because your mindset needs to be based primarily in who you are.
Right.
Correct. And for that, it is so important for all of us to know who really we are. What are our strengths? What are our areas of improvement? What works for us? What we like, what we don't like? Because when we are taking any action, it is important for us to know our own self well. If we don't know, then it will be very difficult for us to bring that change, bring that perspective, bring that mindset right.
All right. So now that we're firmly on the track of mindset, let's start at the beginning, and let's pretend we haven't done the work yet. Where do we begin?
The first thing I would say is look at your inner circle. Look at the people who you are surrounded with. Are the people you are surrounded with giving you positivity, or they are draining you out? Whether it is your family members, it is your friends, your colleagues, with whom you are interacting on a regular basis, that would be the first thing, in my opinion, to look into it. Because no matter how much excited you are, if you're not getting that push, that encouragement, that support, you will fumble. And we all need support. No matter who we are, we cannot do everything alone. We need that support. We need that courage and as well as encouragement. So for me, I would say is look at the inner circle, people that you interact with. If there are people who are dragging you, you need to change your inner circle. Step out of your comfort zone and find out who those people are.
It's a great point. It's also not necessarily the easiest thing to do, particularly if the people in that inner circle are the people that you know who you're closest to. It could be family members, could be, just people that you've hung out with for years. That's not an easy change to make. We'll talk about being out of the comfort zone. That's flying out of the comfort zone, diving headfirst into the unknown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Wald, anything that we will do to change ourselves will not be easy. If it would be easy, then probably everyone would be very happy. So I think being happy, I think it is a choice that we have. It's the choice that we make. Whether we want to be sad, we want to be happy. Every time we have that choice. So if we make the right choice, I'm sure we are moving in the right direction.
How about for people who have experienced dramatic, traumatic experiences throughout their lives? I'm thinking about one person I met recently who she had just been through one horror show after another throughout her entire life. With close people, family members, people very, very close to her, being at the focus of these various events, but they all touched on her as well. You get enough of those things, and we know how that vibrational thing works. If you get enough stuff going on like that, a few things happen. First of all, it wreaks havoc on any attempts that you make in order to feel good and to maintain a positive attitude on a regular basis. It wreaks absolute havoc with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that it tends to do is it tends to create a sense of fatalism, I think I might call it. Like it'll always be that way. And, all this talk about shifting mindset and all that, that's uttered by people who've never been through the stuff that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a simple truth. Unless somebody is willing to consider the idea that they can make a shift, they're not going to get anywhere. But let's assume for the sake of discussion that person is willing to make a shift. What do you tell them?
One thing I would tell them is have a mentor in life. It's so absolutely must. Having a mentor who is showing the positivity to you, who is showing you when you are on a blind spot. When someone is doing something, it is not always because they don't know. It is also because they don't know the right way of doing it. They may be doing it, but they don't know the right way. And that is where the coach or a mentor comes into play, where they are seeing things from the balcony and they are seeing from all the perspective. So in the situation you just mentioned about that individual, if they have a coach where they can not vent out necessarily, but they can talk it out openly. They can open their heart, where they know that they're not being judged, where they know that nothing will go wrong for sharing those intimate aspect of their life. So that would be the first start, in my opinion, is to have a mentor, a coach in your day-to-day life.
Alex, I'm curious to know what your take is on this, because I know you've had a lot of interesting, that's to put it not mildly, interesting stuff happening in your life. So as someone who goes through it and has gone through it, I should say, personally, how do you see that particular issue?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I did want to touch on what he did say about mentors, because I do find that a lot of people that we have as guests do mention that to have a good mentor is a good start. But for me personally, going through traumatic things it's weird. I don't know if it's like childbirth, where you like block out the trauma and you you just don't see it as trauma, and you're just like, yeah, let's do it again. Let's have a second kid. Like, yeah, 4 or 5, let's do it all. But yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. I've blocked it out. Like I'm on the healing side now, so I'm just like, it was what it was, and it is what it is.
Very valid point. Yeah, because once you do that kind of work, I guess you could call it, once you make those steps, come out the other side, your view of it changes, doesn't it? Because you're no longer in the trauma anymore, so you don't
right, because you're staying in the present, so you're not worried about the past.
Yeah, and that does make a difference.
Yes, it does. It's the only mindset to have in order to survive trauma like this.
And yet, I've known people who did not have that kind of a mindset, who have endured trauma. They do tend to endure trauma over and over again for law of attraction reasons. But nevertheless, there are a lot of people who kind of fall into that category.
Maybe change their mindset. Yeah. Continue to follow our podcast to find out how.
Yep.
What's your take on this, Rahul?
I would say that it's very easy to think that, okay, change your mindset. But it is one of the most difficult aspects of our life as well. If it would be so easy, as I said earlier, things would have been great for everyone. And I believe that there is no one else will help you except you. So you have to have that self-belief in your own self. that yes, I can bypass this challenge, or I can overcome this obstacle, I can overcome this issue. Because if you are not helping yourself, God will also not even help you. So you have to be the first one who have to have that firm belief that I will be able to bring that change in the perspective in my life. And for that, when that thought process is happening in our mind world, that's where you need people who are pushing you towards that positivity. You should not have people who are dragging you away. You cannot do this. You have never done this. Come on, get out of your way. You will not be able to do that. Those comments will not help us. And that's where I said, and when I said coach or mentor, is not that you have to have a paid coach or a paid mentor. That's not where I'm going. Even if your friend, your colleague in the office, or maybe a friend from Starbucks, or a friend from a church, anyone could be a mentor. You don't have to have a paid mentor all the time. If you have a paid mentor, yes, fine. But then just having a mentor, someone who is able to give you that support when everyone else is falling short, this is the person you can always count on.
You use a very apropos word there, I believe, to give you support. And it occurs to me that there are actually a few, not characteristics, a few contributions that we need a coach to make to us. Yes, we need the support. We also need a level of accountability. And we also need a level of, I'm rooting for you. Can you think of any other pieces that I'm missing?
So accountability is very well said. Support. I would also say that the confidentiality, the coach, when you are sharing things, you can be rest assured that it is in confidence. It is not going anywhere else. And they should have your self-interest in mind rather than how can I engage this person for more sessions so that they can have more revenue, more money. So that should not be the motive from a coach perspective. It should be giving all in and realizing that I may not be the right person for this individual. How can I guide them? How can I encourage them to talk to someone else? Just because they are hooked on a contract or they're hooked on to me does not mean that I am the only person. So giving them multiple resources for them to realize their dream, realize their true potential is also important.
Yeah, that's so true. The best coaches, in my experience, just from doing the interviews here on this program, let alone my personal experience, have all reinforced that same thing. The good coach, the really good coach, doesn't really care whether or not they're the one providing the help. Their primary focus is what's going to be the best person for this particular client.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So let's talk about... go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
I was going to say honesty is a good characteristic for a coach to have, only because it goes along with accountability. As far as like, if I'm saying, okay, these are my goals, I need somebody to keep it real with me and be like, listen, maybe you want to look at some other goals first and then work your way back up. So I think honesty is a good characteristic for a coach to have.
Correct. And since you're talking on the goals, Alex, I would say keeping 2 to 3 goals at a time is better. And we need to, as a coach needs to help that, okay, out of these 3, what is that one goal that will bring maximum impact on this person? So if they can focus on a widely important goal, which will give maximum impact, that's where we should put our energy. Because otherwise we will put mediocre energy everywhere and may not accomplish the true goal.
Right.
So I agree that we should, as a coach, you should tell them that there are too many or too less or not the right goals.
One of the concepts that has been discussed in the last couple of episodes along the lines of goals is the idea of shooting for incremental goals rather than aiming for the big goal all in one gulp.
Yeah.
I see you're nodding your head. Before I've even asked a question, you're nodding your head. Talk about what your viewpoint is on that.
So many a times people aim a goal that they will be accomplished in a year's time or a 2 years time. And that is a too long goal for an individual. And from an incremental perspective, we should set small target for us, because we need to first get into a habit of achieving goals. The moment we set up far stretch goals, our mind is getting into the habit of not reaching those goals. And then it is becoming habitual of losing. So first of all, we need to train our mind like a winner. And we can train our mind like a winner when we are setting up smaller goals, more, it should be achievable as well as stretched out as well. Because a goal, if it is easily doable, then it is not a goal. It should be a little bit stretched. It should bring you out of comfort zone. That is where it will make things happen for you.
So you don't subscribe to the idea that for someone who feels uncomfortable about moving outside of the comfort zone, to aim for something that's really easy first, just so they can get the feel of accomplishing, and then taking a step outside.
So to start with, I don't subscribe to that, because you need to move your body, shake up your body to something that you are not comfortable. Because if you are in that mindset of comfort zone, you will not step up. So I'm not saying have a difficult goal, but have a goal which is allowing you to do something that you have never done. Because the fact that you want to achieve something in life, the fact is true that you have not done that before. You have not achieved it before. So if you have not achieved, not done, then you need to focus on things that will help you reach to that goal. And it cannot be the same thing that you have done in the past. It has to be some different things.
One thing that I have been cognizant of, particularly recently, about this subject of going outside the comfort zone, or as I like to call it, the familiar zone, because it's really not comfortable at all. But it's very familiar, so that's why I call it the familiar zone. But one of the big aspects about leaving the familiar zone is that it has an unintended positive consequence. Because certainly when you're in the process of taking that step and moving outside of it, it is uncomfortable to move outside. But with rare exceptions, and there are exceptions, but most of the time, I've found that every time that I've taken that step outside, or nearly every time that I've taken that step outside, I have achieved, is that the right word? Acquired? I have experienced, let's put it that way. I have experienced a level of, that goes beyond satisfaction. There's almost a joy level that goes in with taking that step outside. Like, I didn't expect it was going to feel that good. I expected that it was going to feel miserable taking that first step out. And sure, that initial step did feel kind of, ugh. But then after I got out, it was like, oh. And we don't really talk about that side of it, but it's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What another thing I believe, Walt, is when you take a step closer to your goal also take a step closer to you. And when I started writing this book of mine, I was not aware of what are the things that it takes to write. I thought that, okay, you just write a book and done. But as I dive into more, I realize that, man, it is just not about writing. Writing is just one aspect. You need to have a mentor. You need to have someone who will edit your book. You need to have someone who will do graphics to your books. You need to have someone who will do marketing to your books. You will need to have someone who will promote your book. So, but when I started taking a step closer, those steps started coming closer to me as well. When I joined some groups, I connected with like-minded people. They gave me some advice. I joined some other groups. They gave me advice. So if we really firmly believe that we have to achieve a goal, just taking one step closer to it, believe me, that goal is also coming step closer to you.
It's an interesting way to phrase it. I think what you're saying when you say that the goal comes one step closer to you is that opportunities open up that you didn't know existed.
Absolutely. Correct. Very well said. Yep.
Yeah, that's sort of the serendipitous side of pursuing this kind of policy of going outside the comfort zone. that again, we don't really expect it. I think we actually make a lot of work out of this mind shifting, mind talk, change, all that. We make it a lot more work out of it than it really is, because there's actually a lot of joy associated with it. We kind of skip that part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's a kind of an important piece. I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to that in the weeks and months to come. I'm sure of it. But you mentioned that you have a book out, and I believe you just published it, right? Habits for Miracles is the title?
That is correct. It just got published on my son's golden birthday, May 9th. And just yesterday evening, I got to know it is also a number one new release in one of the categories.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Thank you. And this is all about positivity, all about bringing positive change in your life, transform your life, design your life your way.
Yeah, that's really fabulous.
I like it.
Yeah. Habits for Miracles. Where did the title come from?
So this title come from my own struggle and challenges that I had. I have been into this corporate world where I realized that a lot of people are unaware of their true potential. And when someone gets to know about their potential, it in itself is a miracle. So I thought of this title to have some catchy meaning as well as catchy phrase for people to get into this idea of bringing change. Here, I'm not talking about the supernatural miracles. Here, miracle is more about things that you could not do earlier, but because of some change in your life, you're able to achieve that, which in itself is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually a fair definition of the word miracle. I don't care whether you're talking supernatural or otherwise.
Right.
Another way to say the same thing is that what's magic? That's the word I was looking for. Magic is simply science that isn't yet understood.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
True that.
Yeah, and once you understand the science behind it, it's no longer magic, but it could be magical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, I think it was Niels Bohr who said that if you understand quantum mechanics, then you don't really understand quantum mechanics. But the book is out. Have you been getting any feedback on it?
Yes. So before I published Walt, I did share my book with some of the like-minded people. I already got positive reviews before it got published. I got 5-star reviews on Reader's Favorite. And I've seen people making those positive changes in their life. As small as having a goal that is something that they can achieve with that positive mindset, positive thought. And I think that this positivity, if it is the first thing it happens in our mind, that allow us to change our thoughts into positive, that allow us to change our mindset into positive, which allow us to take positive action. And it is that positive action which is taking us closer to a happier and positive life. So yes, I've been getting a lot of reviews. My kids are the biggest critique of mine. They are using the terminology that I'm using in the book. So I'm very pleased with what is happening, but it's still too early. I really want more people to take the benefit of the concept of habits for miracles.
Mm-hmm. When you think about the word habits, because obviously it's the first word in your title, but more than that, I got the feeling that the word habits has very strong meaning for you, and that's kind of carried through in what you've talked to us about so far. But when you think about that word habits, what comes to your mind? How do you think about that? Because not everybody's going to think about it the same way. Some people are going to find that a habit feels like something that drags them down. You think of a habit as something that builds you up.
Correct. So I'm talking all about the positive habits, the healthier habits, habits that will transform your life. And when I think about habit, if you do things on a consistently, that is what it becomes as a habit. So whether it is towards the sports, whether it is towards your health, if you are doing on a continuous basis, it becomes a habit. So for me, habits have a very strong presence because I believe that the discipline that you have in your life, which comes through these regular habits, will make a difference in your life.
How about you, Alex? You've been going through a lot of stuff, and it's fairly well documented here on the program, but you've gone through a lot of really rough stuff over the last couple of years. When you hear the word habits, how does that what do you think about that word in the context of what you've been experiencing?
Well, it depends. Do we mean good habits or bad habits?
I'll let you define it. It was open-ended for a reason. I mean, you get to play with it any way you want to. So you tell me.
I'm having a trouble with a habit that could be positive or negative. I'm trying to be more disciplined in my workout regimen. I'm failing horribly. So I don't know exactly. Okay. I'm going to pass it to Rahul. How would you help someone who wants to achieve that goal of being more disciplined?
So I would recommend them to start small. So if you are failing miserably with your workout regime, probably in your mind, your thoughts are that you want to do for an hour or 30 minutes, 45 minutes. That is what a good workout regime. Change it to maybe to start with 10 minutes. If you are able to do that 10 minutes, you are on the go. And then gradually increase that time from 10 to 15. And workout, do not feel that, okay, it has to be done from the gym. You can do that workout regime at your home itself. So in one of the habits in the Habits for Miracles is exercise. And I talk about moving your body for 10 to 15 minutes on a daily basis will boost up your energy, will boost up your body. It will not yield in the weight loss. That is not the concept of this habits, but it will make you feel good, feel better, feel energized. So start small would be my recommendation, Alex. And I'm very sure that once you see that result from that 15 minutes, as Walt was mentioning, that, you get that feel that, wow, I could do this. That satisfaction that you will get, you will be able to move in from 15 to 20. And I would share about my own story about when I started swimming. After almost 2 decades of a gap, I used to swim when I was in school, and post-pandemic, when everything was closed, I thought that, okay, let me get into the habit of swimming. And I went day one, and I thought that, man, I will just do amazing. To my surprise, when I took one lap of 25-meter pool, I was exhausted. I was drained out. I have to take 10-minute break before I can do second. And I could only do 4 laps. And I was thinking that, what happened, man? What went wrong? I was so excited, so pumped up, but things did not go well. On driving back to my home, I did mental talk and talk to myself that what I could do differently. So I did some research on what are some of the style I can use. I set up some goals for myself. I did some pre-exercise just to release my muscles, make sure that I am ready to do the swimming. Cut the story short, within the 3 weeks time frame, Alex, I was able to do 40 laps without any stops.
Nice.
Wow.
I set up a goal for 8 and then gradually start increasing. And at one point in time, it was 40 laps without break. I was able to do that. And that was all due to that positivity, that because I could see that, okay, man, it is giving me so much of energy. It is giving me so much of help, keeping myself fresh. And my doctor said that swimming is one exercise that moves your entire body.
Right.
So if you have to stick to one, swimming is the one, and that's what I've been doing.
Dancing is another.
Don't take me there. It's horrible to answer. So.
But that does point to something very important. And you hinted at for a moment there in what you were describing with your story, your own story about swimming, and that is the enjoyment side of it. We tend to skip that part really fast, or maybe we touch on it and then we move. I have really come to appreciate over the years just how powerful that enjoyment side is. Because if you take something that is more of a chore and something you have to schedule and something that you have to commit yourself to do and do with willpower, you're giving yourself like 1/10 of the energy that you could have. But when you tie it into, do I enjoy it? Am I feeling good? Is it helping me to feel like, oh wow, I'm more alive now. I'm excited. I can hardly wait to do whatever X. It doesn't even matter what it is. If you're feeling more enjoyment about it, man, it just fuels you, just picks you up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about the feel good factor, Walt. You have to feel good.
Yeah. It makes it easy too. You mentioned, that we shouldn't bring up dance with you, but to be honest, dance is one of my favorite things. I take dance classes every week. Two nights a week I take classes because I love it so much. And that's the key. I love it so much. Not because it's dancing, but because I love it.
Right.
So on that point, a lot of people think that we drag ourselves to work. We don't enjoy work. And same thing, if you love your work, then it will not be work. Then it will be your hobby. It will be your passion. And so first of all, whatever we do, we should love it. If we don't love it, no one else will. And then it will be more of a dragging. And we will not enjoy. We will not be able to give our best.
And yet people often find themselves in a job. You made reference to doing work. Yeah. They find themselves in a job they don't love, and they don't feel like there are any options. I mean, because that particular job, that's the one that pays better than anything else that they know how to do. They really need that income coming in. So they kind of just, get by and, do whatever it takes to survive the darn thing. But what can somebody like that do? Because they feel kind of trapped. Sure, they'd love to be doing something that they love, but anything they love, they can't get paid for anyway.
Right. So, before I answer that question, one thing which I want to answer, Walt, is every job has a personality and every human being has a personality. And I believe that when these two personality matches, the jobs and the individual, that's where the magic happens. That's where the individual become from a performer to a super performer, super duper performer. Specifically to your question, that when people are just doing for the sake of doing, that's where they need to take a step back and realize and work on their dreams and goals. For me, my passion was public speaking. The passion was to write books, and it was becoming very challenging for me to make it happen. But I have to make a conscious mind to do it. And some of the weekdays I'm getting up 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning to work on these things because I'm not able to find time. So I have to go above and beyond to make that happen. So to friends who are feeling that they are just doing for the sake of doing, take a step back. Get to know yourself better, where you will flourish, and spend some extra time in working towards that hobby, towards that job that you will just love.
In your experience, how well do people know each other? Let me rephrase that. How well do they know themselves? Because that's really what you were raising.
I would say maybe 10% of people get to know themselves well. 90% of them, they just don't know about themselves. They just do things because it is coming their way. And that is very unfortunate because there are a lot of times people give their assessments, and most of the time the assessments, you are able to knock it down because you know what that assessment is looking for. You are not always true to yourself. And if you see that any personality assessment, they have this disclaimer that don't think while responding the answer or question. Just answer it. The moment we start thinking that, okay, what would be the best answer versus what will I do in that situation? So sometimes we fake things up, and that those things are not good for us.
Mm-hmm.
You're tying into something that I thought about a moment ago and hadn't figured out a way to bring it in. So thank you. You just gave me a way to bring it in. But that's the whole concept of planning. And I say that from the perspective of somebody who used to be the consummate planner to the point of overkill. Like I could plan something to death. I could plan for the next 3 weeks and still not get started on because I'm so stuck on the plan part. That's how severe it was for me. Now I've since learned how to transition over to the other side where I can now actually just go on impulse without a plan.
What?
5 years ago, that was impossible. Well, maybe 7 years ago. 5 years ago, I was starting to get it. Now I can just go for it. Not even thinking about it at all. Doesn't mean that my mind doesn't play with stuff in the background. It does. But when I'm faced with the possibility of pursuing something that I really don't know how it's going to turn out, I really don't know if it's going to turn into anything. It may just kind of dead end. I have no idea. I no longer spend any time dithering about, okay, well, let's see. If I plan it out this way, what's the possible result? What are the percentages? I don't do that anymore. It's like, I just go start.
And that is where you are moving from a perfectionist to a normal person.
Yes.
What you just elaborated.
I'm normal again. Hooray!
That is the characteristic of a perfectionist. And I was also in the same board earlier, Walt. I would agree. I was in the same board, and I have also transitioned from that. And it's always about taking smaller steps, taking steps towards progress. Whether in the earlier stage, you should not even take a step till you know that it will become a success. But there's a lot of mental pressure, a lot of ups and downs. So I agree that do the things as it is coming to you. Don't only focus on the results. The results are not always in our hand, but efforts are.
And I was also reminded many steps along the way over the last 5-7 years that if I am trying to plan it out, I'm really trying to outguess what it is that God or the universe or however I want to frame it is going to deliver whatever it is that I want to me, which I'm really bad at. I mean, I have like the worst track record in the world in terms of predicting how something is going to play out. So why do I keep doing it? That was the question I kept asking myself. Why do I keep playing out this role that I'm going to be the planner, the ultimate consummate planner, when I keep getting it wrong every time? So that's what finally enabled me to let go and say, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of, throw caution to the wind and see what happens. And then things started to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good. I'm very happy for you, my friend.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, it made my life a whole lot easier. Yeah. It's gotten to the point now where, the morning thing that we were talking about, whether you're going to get up or sleep an extra 5 minutes, whatever, I don't even care anymore. I'm just like, well, I think I'll stay here. No, I think I'll get up. Doesn't matter because I don't have any pressures on me anymore.
Exactly.
The pressures are gone. Actually, you know what the biggest pressure I have right now is?
What?
Figuring out what I want to do with all this new time I've got.
I
mean, that was something that I used to just pray for. Mm-hmm. Used to be, I was just pulled in, 25 different directions. My schedule was just, jammed to the max. And I dreamed for the day where I would be able to just decide what I wanted to do, because then I had all these things I was going to do. You know what the funny thing is, now that I'm here? None of those things are interesting to me anymore. Well, not none of them, but, a lot of them, I think were really tied to what it would take to get rid of that pressure. That's really what they were all about. Now that I'm actually faced with having free time, like, I can actually appreciate it for free time and what I want to do with it. That's where the creativity really starts to kick in, because now I don't have the pressures associated with it. But that takes a lot to get there. It takes a lot to get there. I can tell you from personal experience. Anybody who wonders about that, listen to the last 7 years of episodes. You'll find out.
And Walt, I would say that you have taken conscious effort towards it. It didn't happen just like that, I'm sure.
No, it's a long process. It is incremental, one little step at a time, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 6 steps back.
Yep.
Yeah. Correct. And very often feeling like I wasn't getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. Which is also, that's the key point too. We should bring that one up. Even if you do these things, even if you get engaged in, setting small goals and so forth, there are going to be times where you don't feel like you're getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And then it's always going to be like that.
And that it's going, yeah, sure. That's a piece of it. Right.
This is what it is. And that's
so how do you deal with it?
Be.
That's the question. How do you deal with something like that?
And that's where, believing in yourself is very important. That believing yourself that whatever you're doing is good. You may not realize that how good it is right now, but when your journey will go 5 years later, 5 years after, when you look back, you will be thanking those episodes that, okay, I'm glad that I took those steps. So I fully agree that we may not be getting positive results all the time. Mm-hmm. Focus on taking the efforts, taking that extra step, as Walt was mentioning. You may have to take a few steps back, then again forward and back, until you figured it out that, yes, this is the path for me.
Yeah, and I think that's why I always focus on the joy aspect. How much am I enjoying it? Because that's the fuel. That's how you get through taking those steps, including the back steps. That's how you find the way to just keep on going, because you're fueled by some level of joy somewhere along the way. For me, it was doing the podcast. That was the biggest element. There were other elements too, but just doing this podcast every day, as Alex knows, has made, a huge difference for me in terms of dealing with all kinds of stuff that has gone on in my life.
Leaps and bounds.
Yeah. And some leaps and bounds backward too. I mean, both of those. And the ones that were going backward, they were the ones where I was really glad that I had the joy that was coming out of an activity like this one. So that's why I just keep emphasizing, where is your joy? Do you know where your joy is? I didn't even know where my joy was before I started doing the podcast. I really didn't. I didn't think that by starting to do this podcast, that's going to be my route to joy. Starting the podcast was actually about solving a financial issue. The joy came later. It's like, oh, whoa, I didn't expect that part.
That's where, knowing yourself is so important. Know your joy, what you like, and then what is making you happy from inside. It's so important.
And it's I think that's the most constant part of the work. We often call this work or the work, right? And I think that is the most constant part of the work. Identifying joy, your joy, what makes you feel good. It doesn't even have to be full joy level, because sometimes we're, so far down the spiral that joy is way out of reach, but anything that just feels better. Where does feel better feel like? Where does that exist? And identifying that from moment to moment, which, by the way, is how we end up in appreciation mode, which is, all the teachers teach us, you want to be appreciative. Well, the way to do that is to look at, what do you feel good about right now? Even if it's just a little bit better than where you are at right now. Well, that's appreciation.
And that's also how you pivot to a different mindset.
That's right. Yeah.
Correct.
So from the beginning of doing the show, I was learning. One of the reasons, Rahul, I started the show was because I didn't really understand law of attraction. So I figured I would start the show and have people come on to teach me, and that was the best way to do it, which, by the way, it was. But also what I've learned along the way is, yes, our thoughts become things. Yes, our thoughts drive our experiences. Yes, our mindsets make a huge difference. But the energy behind all of it is how we feel about it. That's where all of the energy comes from.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we give enough attention to that. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. So when we are taking any action, what is our energy? Are we doing things with a positive energy, or are we doing things with a negative energy? And that is so powerful, because if you're thinking negatively, you are very bound to get negative result. But if you think positive, if your energy is positive, then no one can stop you. You will see, even if you're not able to get the desired result, but the fact that your energy is positive, your thoughts were positive, you will feel happy about it from inside.
Alex, I'm going to refer once more to the struggles, particularly the medical struggles you've experienced over the last couple of years. That's a really good example of how you can take 2 steps forward and 4 steps back, and have to deal with that on a regular basis. Where'd you find your energy?
My husband. He's the one who kept me going and kept making sure it was always a positive experience, despite what I was physically feeling. Mentally and emotionally, everything was positive.
How big of a difference did that make?
I think all the difference. I think I would have spiraled down to probably suicide if I didn't have a good, strong support system and positive energy in my space.
Yeah. That's really, really important. That goes back, Rahul, to what you talked about earlier. Who's your circle? Who's your inner circle?
Correct.
So that becomes
positive vibes only.
That's not just good theory. This is like vital. This is pure survival right there.
And this isn't just for medical trauma. This is how you live life. Positive vibes only. Let only positive people in your space, in your family, in your support system.
You made a conscious effort over a few years to make that happen. Because you had not the most ideal circle a few years back. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. You gotta just don't worry about it. The trash will take itself out eventually. Don't worry about it.
The trash will take itself out. I love that.
Just keep being you and doing what you want to do, and eventually the trash will take itself out. Don't worry about it.
Very interesting metaphor. I like that one. So, Rahul, okay, we're kind of running out of time a little bit. Tell people a little bit more about the book itself, where they can find it, and how can they find out more about you if they want to learn more about Rahul Sharma.
Sure. So my book is available on in an ebook format in all the major platforms. You can type "Habits for Miracles" on Google. You will find multiple places it is available. If you want to know more about me, log into my website, habitsformiracles.com. It is number 4, habitsformiracles.com, and it has my social handles. You look at through my posts, you will get to know who am I as a person. And also my book talks about my bio, my upbringing, and has all the stories throughout my personal life. I'm only talking about from my experience. Theory I've kept less because theory you can get to know from anywhere. But I'm trying to share my own experiences and call to action. So one of the critical thing about my book, Walt, is every chapter has call to actions that you can take while you are reading. So you don't have to wait and you do not have to think, okay, how will I implement this? I have removed that thought process from the reader's mind. They will have call to actions right there in the book so that they can execute it and see the difference.
Well, I like the fact that you wrote the book as a series of stories. That's the way I hear what you just said. Because we love stories. Human beings.
Who doesn't?
Stories, right? Yeah. It's more interesting to read a story. You can kind of identify with the person who's telling the story. You know, oh, I've been through that kind of experience, or wow, I can't believe that person actually was able to do X, whatever X was. Well, we love those. And the stories also include, you know, problems. They include crises, right? Because that's what a good story does, right?
Sure.
Sometimes adversity.
Adversity, absolutely. And then with a positive thinking type book, it's also going to provide resolution, which you don't always get from a story, but I imagine your stories do exactly that, right, Rahul?
Yes, it does. And I have put it in such a way that people can figure it out what they need to do. And I've created a Facebook group where people can share their success stories because it's all about spreading the positivity, and that one person positive story can help another and can save 12 million of Americans who are contemplating suicide due to the mental trauma, due to the mental illness that has happened specifically post-pandemic.
Yeah. Boy, now I wish we had another hour because, Alex, I'm thinking about the work that you do, and that this could like open up an entire new chapter of conversation.
For sure.
But we don't really have the time for that, so we'll just have to save that one for another day. But Rahul, thank you, first of all, for joining us on the program, for sharing your perspectives on very positive perspectives, very upbeat perspectives on how to make those changes in your life. And one thing that I want to tell you that I make it a point to tell all of our guests, because you've come onto this program to give as much as you can give in the program, and I know you do it with your book and you do it with the articles that you write and so forth, speaking engagements and so forth. One thing that happens is that when we do these things, when we're putting all this content out to help people, there are a lot of people that we've never met, we've never seen that consume it, and very often are helped by it. Sometimes we hear about it, but most often we don't. And we don't get enough credit for that. So on behalf of all those people you've never met, you've never seen, who you've been helping all this time by putting that material out there, thank you for what you've been doing and what you're continuing to do, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you all. Thank you. You are also doing an amazing job. I just love the show, love the interaction. And I'm very hopeful that people will just love it and bring change, positive change in their life. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex, too. Yes, absolutely. I love the things that you had to share today, too. They were really good. So thank you very much for that. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.